I'm Megan Liberman in Tampa, kicking off 4 days of live coverage of the 2012 Republican Convention. They have just gavelled the convention to order, so let's listen to what's happening on the floor.
Republican National Convention in session and called to order. The chair announces, pursuant to Clause 12, paren B, paren 1 of Rule 1 of the Rules of the House of Representatives, the 2012 Republican National Convention stands in recess, subject to the call of the chair. All right. All right.
Looks like it's going to be a short day on the floor here, and I'm here with national political correspondent Jeff Zeleny to talk about how Isaac has upended plans. So, Jeff, we're having a minute of sort of activity on the floor, but basically today is a lost day for them.
It is a lost day for them, and we've heard Chairman Priebus gaveling the convention, and he's debuting right now the U.S. national debt clock. It's sort of a gimmick that Republicans are doing to show how much the debt is rising during these 4 days of the convention. But right now they're going to go out of session because of the storm of tropical
which didn't really make it here, but
Storm Isaac. It didn't, but it really is an issue in a bigger sense for them because they were hoping to start the reintroduction of Mitt Romney right now. That has to begin now tomorrow.
Right. And these events are always so scripted, and they've gone to great pains to make this a very controlled event this time, but the weather just doesn't cooperate, and then you have to roll with it.
The weather didn't cooperate, and they have planned everything out by the minute to give every detail of Mitt Romney's life, every element of Paul Ryan's life, and now they're going to have to abbreviate that a little bit. And there are actually some practical problems with that, because they also wanted to give every single person in the Republican Party a time to talk. Now, some people are not going to talk at all, and the proceedings are going to begin now tomorrow.
And there's some politics to that, right? There are people who've got to be unhappy about being cut out, and some people have gotten shorter shrift here, haven't they?
Right. The people we are going to see are the new shining lights of the Republican Party. Governor Nikki Haley of South Carolina will be on stage tomorrow night. Ann Romney, of course, will be on stage tomorrow night, and Governor Chris Christie. But all their speeches were short.
Truncated, yeah.
We're not going to see Mike Huckabee, the former Arkansas governor. Some of the older people in the party.
The former governors are not getting such big play, right?
Exactly. But we are still going to see the Ron Paul delegation here. They are going to be making a protest tomorrow on the floor. They think they've been mishandled a little bit. So that will be one also unscripted moment of this convention.
Right. And the sort of vacuum of the lost day today has kind of created a little bit more of an opening for those things to pop up, hasn't it?
It absolutely has. It's allowed some space in this schedule that was supposed to be like literally minute by minute planned out here. And some of these protests are real. The Ron Paul people are coming here with very full delegations from at least 3 states, and they believe that they weren't treated that well by the Romney campaign. But overall, this is still Mitt Romney's convention, and it's really giving him a potential to show some leadership as well. So the storm is the one thing that will allow us to see in real time how his team works, how he makes these decisions. I mean, his campaign is already saying that they're spending more time on the weather than in politics. If we see big storm damage in New Orleans, other places, this convention will stop once again.
Right. And we know that this poses a challenge not just to Mitt Romney, but actually to some of these state conventions.
It does.
So we had a photojournalist, video journalist, Craig Duff, go look at the Mississippi delegation this morning, so let's take a look at what he found.
Right.
Mississippi's having our state delegation breakfast. I think there are delegation breakfasts going on all over the city. We want to go back to Mississippi ready to make sure that we come in with a very strong vote on behalf of the Romney-Ryan ticket. Well, we're monitoring the hurricane. Anytime we hear the word hurricane in the Gulf South, it always causes you to pay attention.
I think the thought here, everyone is just kind of concerned, absolutely concerned, you know, about really about what's going to happen to the rest of the country. Where's this storm going to hit? Is it going to go back to New Orleans, or may have hit Mississippi?
You get up in the morning and you turn the TV on and you're looking at the Weather Channel.
The track they had on the weather this morning was bringing this storm right up the same track as Katrina. And Katrina flooded New Orleans, but it slammed the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Of course, we in the South and the Gulf South, we see hurricanes a lot. And we're doing what we always do. We're praying for the best, but preparing for the worst.
This is not our first rodeo. We've been through Category 5 with Katrina.
We're carrying on the business regardless of the hurricane.
People in Mississippi are used to preparing for and dealing with hurricanes, and I'm sure that our governor is doing that right now with everybody available back home.
Many of our staffers from governor's office, they already left yesterday.
We're telling our delegation, first things first. Take care of your family, take care of your property, and if you need to go home, go home. We hope and pray that there's not a lot of damage anywhere, but for the convention Wednesday and Thursday night, it'll be appropriate to pay attention to what has happened with the hurricane, but it'll still be a great launch pad for Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan.
So, Jeff, this is a tough balancing act for everyone. They want to go on with this. They want the stage show here. But if there's real devastation somewhere, they can't ignore that, can they?
No question. All of these videos we're seeing here right now are about Mitt Romney, what he would do if elected president. But that is not going to be well as a split-screen image if there is devastation, especially coming on the 7th-year anniversary of Katrina. And Governor Haley Barbour, former governor of Mississippi, we talked to him this morning, and we saw him there. I mean, he's also advising this convention and the Romney campaign how to handle things here going forward.
As a former head of the RNC, he has a pretty good sense of this part of the process,
he absolutely
too.
does.
Yeah.
But what the Romney campaign says, they're monitoring things overnight. They're going to do the official business on Tuesday to get the roll call vote sounded. After all, that's what needs to happen here. And then they'll play things by ear, hour by hour.
Right, and there's also the possibility that not just that this could be a distraction for them, but in fact that it could give the president a presidential moment. If he can sort of say, I've called in FEMA, I've called in the National Guard, if something big happens somewhere.
No question at all. We saw that a little bit yesterday from the White House. They were very quick to point out that President Obama was on the phone with Florida Governor Rick Scott, which is normal. That would have happened anyway. But the White House knows it is walking a fine line here. They cannot be overly political in terms of going to visit New Orleans or Mississippi quickly should something happen. So I think both sides have to walk a fine line. But it gives the president a leadership moment to insert himself in a legitimate way into this convention.
Thanks so much, Jeff.
Thank you.
Outside the convention walls, we've had a lot going on this morning with protesters marching through downtown Tampa to the convention center. Colin Moynihan reports.
This is Colin Moynihan reporting from the streets outside the convention center where the Republicans will be holding their convention. About an hour ago, several hundred people left a park in downtown Tampa, and they have embarked on a slow-moving march through the streets, brandishing signs, chanting, and playing musical instruments. And a large contingent of police officers have been accompanying them and following them on bicycle and on foot and riding in police vehicles. As the crowd neared the convention center, Chief Castor, the head of the Tampa Police Department, stood on the sidewalk and watched the ranks of protesters file past. Chief Castor told reporters that everything was going well and the protesters were headed for an assembly zone that had been set up to accommodate demonstrations outside of the convention.
And yesterday, some of Mitt Romney's primary opponents, Ron Paul, Michelle Bachmann, and Herman Cain, held events of their own.
On Sunday, there were a number of rallies around Tampa staged by various groups, all with one intention: to steal thunder from the official action just a few miles away. The largest was a gathering of Ron Paul supporters inside the Sun Dome at the University of South Florida. Thousands of supporters came there to cheer on the man they wished had been the Republican nominee.
Monetary policy is important, and the reason that ultimately we get rid of the Fed.
The speakers came out swinging against the GOP, taking a harshly critical tone. One speaker called Ron Paul,
"He is a clean bubble in a sea of garbage."
all, the Sunday rallies might be seen as something of a consolation prize for campaigns that were unable to make it to the finish line. Outside of the Paul rally, the Tea Party held a gathering at a Tampa church on Sunday evening to a boisterous crowd of several hundred.
I'm at a Tea Party rally, and Herman Cain's about to take the stage. Earlier, Representative Michelle Bachmann of Minnesota spoke. They weren't given roles at the Republican National Convention, but that hasn't stopped them from getting their messages across.
I'm here to say to the Tea Party tonight, if you've been watching the Republican Party platform this week, the Tea Party has been all over that platform. Because these concepts, tax enough already, don't spend more than what you take in, and follow the Constitution, are now a part of the Republican Party platform.
One person who went hardly mentioned at all was the presumptive Republican nominee, Mitt Romney. Herman Cain quit the race in January amid accusations of sexual harassment. On Sunday, he blamed his withdrawal on, quote, lies and dirty politics.
Even though I am no longer seeking the position of president, I am still on a mission to defeat Barack Obama.
I'm joined now by Susan Zeleny, who was at the rallies yesterday. So, Susan, let's start with Ron Paul, because Ron Paul's the one who got the crowds.
He did. 10,000 strong, Megan, packed the Sun Dome at the University of South Florida. Think about this hall right here. It's 20,000 capacity, so that was quite a lot of people.
These people are shipped in.
they came from all over the country to see Ron Paul, and it was a high-energy, high-octane event. People were literally dancing in the aisles.
It was quite a rock star reception, wasn't it?
It was, absolutely. It was his thank you to them, but also their thank you to him. You could really feel it in the air.
And he was definitely feeling it to the point that he said a couple of things that were a little out there, didn't he?
He really did. He took every opportunity to sort of punch back at the mainstream of the party. He wasn't given a speaking role at this convention, so this was his one opportunity to speak in an uncensored way to his followers. And he really was a classic Ron Paul.
So what do the Paul people at this point want from this convention? Was it just a rallying moment to say, like, this is our guy? Or are there actually concrete things they're hoping to get out of this couple of days here?
They're hoping to take his ideas into the future. And I talked to several people who said they plan to do that on the internet and through social media, and to keep his ideas alive however they can at rallies in the future and in the next campaigns.
So let's talk about the unity event that Michelle Bachmann and Herman Cain had.
So very different event, other side of town. It was held in the church, and right from the beginning, that sets a different tone, right? So it was a much quieter, smaller event, as opposed to several thousand. There were several hundred people there. Michelle Bachmann spoke, Herman Cain spoke, and it was sort of like a flashback to the primaries. To be at this event, you might think that we were still in January. Right, that indeed their campaigns are over, but you wouldn't have known it yesterday.
And were they sticking to kind of the lines that they had kept up during the campaign?
Absolutely. It was striking that there was very little mention of Mitt Romney or Paul Ryan, but a lot of promotion.
And Herman Cain was still on 999?
He was. A lot of promotion of their own brands.
Right. And Herman Cain really did have the crowd going a little bit.
He did.
Didn't
he was the last speaker, the keynote. They waited a long time for him, and he delivered. He was classic Cain. Had a lot of zingy punchlines and really got them moving. They roared at the end. They were very happy to see him.
Thanks, Susan. Throughout the conventions, we'll be featuring periodic looks at voters across the spectrum. Up first, a young Republican from Arizona. Let's take a look.
I think my earliest memory of political activity was actually in 2000 when Bush was running, and I knew that my parents were voting for Bush, and at school we had a straw poll, and I was only in second grade, but I remember it coming over the announcement that Bush had won our straw poll. I was like, okay, cool, our guy won. In my junior year of high school, I heard that somebody was trying to start a Teenage Republicans Club, so I went and met them, and we decided to just establish a club with a teacher that agreed to sponsor us. I think that first year of our club was a major influence on me politically, because I got to do a lot of cool things. I got to meet a lot of really influential people, and that really just kind of solidified my interest in politics. I definitely felt a sense of, I guess, belonging to a sort of movement that really represented what I felt. so it's easy to become passionate about it. I am pro-choice. I disagree with the Republican Party in terms of abortion and gay marriage. I've always been in favor of gay marriage. I never saw any reason to be against it. In my opinion, it's not hurting anybody, and who am I to stand in the way of somebody's happiness? And I see that with a lot of the students that I'm around. A lot of the college Republicans I know share a lot of the same liberal to moderate social views, and I think that that's actually changing the face of the party. I think that supporting Mitt Romney is a pretty easy choice for me, just because I found him to be the most qualified candidate solely based on executive experience and his economic background. I would actually prefer that Mitt Romney leave social issues sort of alone, because I do disagree with him on those things. While he keeps saying the first thing he'll tackle is either healthcare or the economy, and personally I'd prefer that he tackle the economy, because I'm graduating in a couple years, I'm actually looking for a job now, and it's pretty dismal where I am.
Zeke Miller is a reporter at BuzzFeed, our convention partner, and he's been following the social media reaction to what's going on here in Tampa. So, Zeke, obviously the weather is a big issue on social media, but what else is a big issue on social media today?
Well, obviously the rallies and the protests happened. The rallies we had yesterday with Ron Paul, Michelle Bachmann, Herman Cain, and today the protests happening outside. There's a big Occupy contingent, as you saw earlier on this program. And that's spilling out into the delegates. You know, some of them had to walk past that. Security here is very, very tight. There was
very tight. As any of us who've been here and had to pass through it can tell you, it's blocks and blocks long.
And
yeah.
So that's actually one thing everybody's talking about. You know, from anchors like Andrea Mitchell or just rank and file reporters. People have called this the tightest, most secure convention in history. You know, there really is only one way to walk into this place. So it is a little tough, challenging, but that also meant that everybody had to see the protesters. So you're talking to delegates coming in here into the convention center, reporters. Everybody's seeing this, it's sort of one big pool that everybody has to walk through on their way in. So you get the protesters, you get you'll get Occupy, you'll get Ron Paul, you'll get,
right. And with nothing else going on, there really is nothing else to talk about, right? Except
Absolutely.
the protests and the rallies.
We just saw about, a minute 30 seconds by my count of conventions, and that's
right.
it.
And we're not going to have anything until tomorrow. Well, they're saying sort of tomorrow afternoon, but although I guess they could potentially move that up.
Exactly. There is also a little bit of uncertainty about what happens tomorrow with the weather again.
And is that an issue on social media? The whole question of A, the rescheduling, and B, what is this going to mean? Are they going to switch things up again? Is that a big theme we're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, there was a rumor yesterday that perhaps we can talk about Friday.
Yeah.
So far that hasn't, we're not there yet. But the convention still isn't ruling that out. They're saying maybe we're looking, it's look and see mode where the storm goes, just how strong it is when it hits the Gulf Coast. And Governor Bobby Jindal, did cancel his visit here, and that really did take off on Twitter and Facebook to an extent. And people are concerned about the Gulf Coast, especially given the anniversary with Katrina, but also just because they canceled today and it's sunny out today, and tomorrow it's not going to be sunny, on the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, and it's hard to sort of know where this is going to go over the next couple of days, depending on how the schedule ends up switching up.
Exactly. I mean, if they had to cancel Tuesday, would they squeeze everything into a couple of days? Hopefully that doesn't happen. The storm does dissipate. I think that's what everybody is hoping for, given what New Orleans has seen over the past few years. But anything can happen, and I'm sure they've telling us they've planned out every contingency.
It's a nightmare for everyone if they have to reschedule everything and stay here Friday, right?
I mean, because we're all going to Charlotte,
Right, I know. Flights have been booked.
Well, you'd have to reschedule 20,000 delegates, who are here, delegates, alternates, guests who are here that need to go home, and, hotels, might not have room for them anymore. So that is a big thing on the mind of the delegates, the people who are here on social media, just what exactly goes on. I mean, beyond that, the other big story of the day, is the actual convention proceeding itself. A lot of the Ron Paul stuff yesterday did take off. Some of these rules changes might give us a bit of excitement tomorrow on the floor.
Something to look forward to. Thanks, Zeke. We also have an open question on Facebook that we'll be getting to back later this evening. We're wondering, with the convergence of the Republican National Convention, Tropical Storm Isaac, the U.S. Open, and the crisis in Syria, where's your attention most focused today? We'll have the results tonight when we're back here at 7. That's all for me, but op-ed columnist Charles Blow takes over now, and he's joined by editorial board writer David Firestone. Take it away, Charles.
Thank you, Megan. This is Charles Blow. This is the fantastic New York Times newsroom here at the RNC, here with David Firestone. So, David, lead editorial in today's paper is a fascinating one called Paul Ryan's social extremism. Summarize what's in that piece for our viewers today.
Well, we have a candidate on a major ticket that's one of the most conservative in many years, and both on a fiscal and a social basis. This editorial talks about not only his abortion positions, which have become fairly well known, but he has also opposed family planning grants. He's opposed coverage for birth control. He's opposed all kinds of same-sex marriage acts and even hate crimes that involved homosexuality. It's remarkable.
That works for Romney as a pick because what? Because that appeals to the base.
That's right. Romney wasn't seen as nearly social conservative enough for that base, and in fact, based on his past, he really wasn't. But Ryan absolutely fits that bill, probably more than almost anyone he could have chosen, and as a result, it's a signal to members of his base that this ticket is going to stand for things that he wouldn't have done.
So it's to fire them up, though, right? Because there's no way they were going to vote for Obama. So this was to make sure they came out to the polls, they didn't stay home. But okay, even if you get all of those voters, what does this do, and what does this say about an appeal to the middle, which is what everybody basically says? You need the middle in order to win a presidential election.
Right.
How does the Ryan pick play to the middle?
I'm not sure it does. In fact, I think that could have been a mistake that they made in their overall calculations. I mean, mainstream of American thought is not abortion, no abortion and no exceptions. It is not an end to family planning and contraceptives. And I think it's going to make it harder for them to appeal to, say, suburban voters who might tend to vote Republican for fiscal reasons, for financial reasons, but who might really be turned off by what they hear.
And even so, we see them kind of pushing ahead into more of these social hot button issues that, we had a story that I think the lead in the paper today was about some advisors secretly saying that maybe they need to be a little bit more, a little harder on Obama in order to make this work, and in fact to pick up more working class white voters. You think that this Ryan pick does that?
Absolutely. I think it does appeal to them, and I think you're seeing the same kinds of thinking in the ads that they're running now on welfare, which are blatantly false, but nonetheless seem to be picking up some voters out there that they might not have gotten otherwise.
Let's pivot a little bit from social conservatism to fiscal conservatism, and let's look at that through the prism of the fact we have the storm coming. It has the Gulf Coast in its sights. It's very likely to make landfall as a hurricane. And yet you have a Republican Party that has basically said that they would like to cut a lot of the agencies, budgets for the agencies that would do the response work for that storm. So you have this possibility of this real split screen between the federal government, which they say make smaller and we want to reduce our budget, working to help save or to help people who have been impacted by the storm, and a Republican convention going on with people speaking and the same people who want to cut it. How is that going to play?
That's actually happened already. I mean, because of Ryan's budgets and other Republican cuts, they've already cut emergency preparedness grants by about 43% over the last 2 years. That's the kind of stuff that really helped in the Joplin and Tuscaloosa tornadoes, for example, that will help in this tornado, this hurricane, that is. But it won't be there in future years because that money has been cut, and they're talking about other cuts in the future.
So we have to wrap up here. So what is that split screen going to mean? Who is that pitching to? Obviously, the Gulf Coast states are not going to go blue anytime soon. Who are they? Who does that split screen pitch to, and who does it help and hurt?
Well, I think this is a reminder to voters on the fence that government continues to play a huge role, and that government cuts can make a significant impact on people's lives, which you don't hear from the Republican platform and the podium very often in a week like this.
That's it. So that's it for today. We'll see you back here at 7 o'clock tonight, and we're out.
All right. All right.
Looks like it's going to be a short day on the floor here, and I'm here with national political correspondent Jeff Zeleny to talk about how Isaac has upended plans. So, Jeff, we're having a minute of sort of activity on the floor, but basically today is a lost day for them.
It is a lost day for them, and we've heard Chairman Priebus gabbling the convention, and he's debuting right now the U.S. national debt clock. It's sort of a gimmick that Republicans are doing to show how much the debt is rising during these 4 days of the convention. But right now they're going to go out of session because of the storm of tropical...
which didn't really make it here. But
Storm Isaac. It didn't, but it really is an issue in a bigger sense for them because they were hoping to start the reintroduction of Mitt Romney right now. That has to begin now tomorrow.
Right. And these events are always so scripted, and they've gone to great pains to make this a very controlled event this time. But the weather just doesn't cooperate, and then you have to roll with it.
The weather didn't cooperate, and they have planned everything out by the minute to give every detail of Mitt Romney's life, every element